We start, though, with the history being made overseas today. President Trump is now heading back to the U.S. following his whirlwind trip to the Middle East, where he celebrated the first phase of a peace plan between Israel and Hamas and the end of more than 2 years of war. After 738 days in captivity, the 20 remaining living hostages in Gaza have all returned home and reunited with their families. Now Israel and Hamas are working to coordinate the return of the remains for the hostages who did not survive. In Gaza, hundreds of Palestinian prisoners and roughly 2,000 others who have been detained by Israel without charges since October 7th have been released as part of the swap. And aid trucks, they're now making their way into the war-torn territory to provide food and assistance to the roughly 2.5 million people who live there. And since the fighting stopped last Friday, thousands have made the trek to northern Gaza to find their homes in ruins. Earlier this morning, President Trump spoke before Israel's parliament, telling the country's lawmakers that the ceasefire will usher in a new golden age for the Middle East. He then traveled to Egypt to participate in a peace signing ceremony and additional peace talks.
This is the day that people across the region and around the world have been working, striving, hoping, and praying for. They have done things over the last month that I think were really unthinkable. Nobody thought this could happen. With the historic agreement we've just signed, those prayers of millions have finally been answered. As you know, the hostages have been returned, and further work goes on.
And CBS News foreign correspondent Debora Patta has more.
Here, as you can imagine, jubilation. And when the hostages were released, tears and hugs. People here have campaigned long and hard for this moment, lived through heartbreak and rage. And although they kept hope alive, there were often times they thought this day would never happen. The 20 living hostages were released by Hamas from 2 separate locations, and after being handed over by the Red Cross to the Israeli military inside Gaza, they were taken to an army base and reunited with their families. And so the clock finally stops at 738, the number of days in captivity. But for the families today, it is filled with firsts. The first longed-for reunion, the first embrace, the first screams of joy, and sadly another first, the first day of mourning for loved ones killed in captivity. President Trump also arrived this morning in Israel to a hero's welcome and then addressed the Israeli parliament, the Knesset, saying it was a great day and a new beginning. 250 Palestinian prisoners serving life sentences and around 1,900 detainees arrested since October 23 have also been set free today. And the ceasefire deal is a lifeline for Gazans. Desperately needed aid can finally flow into the territory to help ease the dire humanitarian crisis. The images of the sheer scale of the destruction defy description. Back to you.
Debora Patta, thank you. And CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes joins us now from Sharm el-Sheikh there in Egypt. Nancy, very good to see you on this incredibly momentous day. The president there spoke about the spirit of cooperation and goodwill, also saying that he does not want to see anything like this happen again. Those in his words there. What is the president asking for now from other countries in that region?
He's asking for several things. First, he's asking for cash. It is estimated by regional leaders that it will cost about $53 billion to rebuild Gaza, and that money is going to have to be put up by wealthy nations like some of the countries whose leaders he spoke with today. President Trump made a point of that. He said he's going to be publicizing who hands over money that can be used to rebuild Gaza, because it is the view of the White House and so many other partners here in Egypt that Gaza will have to be rebuilt quickly if there's going to be any hope for a long-lasting peace. He's also going to be asking various countries for forces that can contribute to what is being described as a temporary stabilization force inside Gaza. Until Gaza can train its own police officers to keep the peace, this is a force that will be made up by troops and police officers from all around the world that will essentially monitor the ceasefire, will protect the border, will ensure that new weapons aren't making their way into Gaza. And so part of the discussion here is about which countries will contribute troops, what exactly that stabilization force will look like.
Still, just incredible to see the images of Jubilation. Hard to believe that this would have happened even just a week ago. How does a deal of this magnitude really come to fruition? And how did the administration hammer this deal home?
Well, the deal was hammered out actually here in Sharm el-Sheikh between the United States, Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, and then, of course, the Israelis and Hamas had to sign on as well. And the White House credits a couple of things for getting this deal across the finish line. First of all, you heard the president today again and again congratulate his two key negotiators, his son-in-law Jared Kushner, his special envoy Steve Witkoff. But also he has made a point of noting that his deep relationships in the region, not just with Israeli leaders, but also with Gulf state leaders, enabled him to use both pressure and support to get everyone to sign on at the same time. And then finally, the White House believes that both sides were really just weary of this war. After 2 years, the incredible death toll, the misery on both sides, the destruction with no end in sight, and they felt that the time was simply ripe for the two sides to lay down their weapons. The question now is, can this ceasefire hold, and can it lead to a more lasting peace?
So many are hoping so. Nancy Cordes joining us on a very long and historic day. Nancy, thank you.